TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Jared, hey, we're gonna need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of the stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it is that time, the breakfast bankroll, of course, with the one and only Mr. Paul Stone, live from Cape Cod and, of course, Texas, where what a game Texas had yesterday. And I guess everyone, the two big topics, obviously, is the non-call of the launching the hit to the head. And I'll also say Cam Scatterbo, which is, I'm a high stakes fantasy football player as well. And everyone was talking Ashton and Genty. Well, all these guys crawling out of the woodwork. Well, give me Scatterbo. I'd rather have Scatterbo. So it'll be interesting to see Paul's comparison between Genty and Scatterbo. But first and foremost, of course, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It's free. I promise you 2025 will be epic. Viva Tequila Seltzer, CT Bets, Austin, the team second to none. Two new flavors, Lemon, and the East Coast is cuckoo for coconuts. Go try one where you purchase and enjoy adult beverages. Last but never least, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Terry Smith, jump on over to Facebook, follow him, then head on over to the website, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, chops, appetizers. It's 2025. Start to eat better. Start to feel better. Monthly subscriptions, 4 different ones to choose from. Just plug and play. Hit the button every month. This beautiful box of beef, chicken, seafood will come right to your door, and you'll never have to leave the house there. Use the promo code STEAKS10 and get a 10% discount off your full order. So please head on over to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Without further ado, the star of this show, Mr. Paul Stone.
Jeff, how you doing? Happy New Year, and good to be with you again today on Thursday, January 2nd, talking a little college football as we get further down the road and closer to a Final Four and this first-year 12-team playoff.
There's so many spots to start. I mean, I could take you as a hostage and we could talk for 3 hours, and before you know it, we're at kickoff tonight, 4 o'clock this afternoon, due to the tragedy in New Orleans. But first, you're a Texas guy. Thoughts on what you saw? Texas, 3 plays, 2 touchdowns, 14-0. It was going to be a cakewalk. Then Arizona State and Mr. Scatterbo said, hold my beer. You're not going away that easy.
Yeah, Arizona State, I made the mistake yesterday saying that Texas was ahead 14-0, but Arizona State actually kicked the opening field goal. They went ahead 3-0, neither here nor there. But my nephew, when I was on a different program, he said, that was a good appearance, but you messed that up, so he was quick to correct me. But, Texas jumps out to that 14-3 lead, and they look totally in control. And, as they've done at times this season, for whatever reason, they decelerate, or maybe it's just the opponent wakes up, but they found themselves in a ball game that they very easily could have lost to Arizona State. And just a great college football game, such a supreme effort by both teams. Cam Skataboo, his physicality, his seeking out contact, his balance, and his speed. People look at him as just a big old burly white running back, and he's got a little speed. He's not going to outrace a sprinter, but he can go a pretty good distance. And his effort was just incredible. And the play also of their quarterback, Sam Levitt, he was under duress, under pressure the whole game, but just kept coming back. And just a great football team, Arizona State. And that was one of my plays in the quarterfinals was Arizona State. Actually took them at 14.5, plus 14.5 at -111, just slightly enhanced juice there around the opener week or so before the game. So Arizona State really came into that game playing well, playing with a lot of confidence. They exuded and verbalized some of that confidence in some of the pregame press conferences, and then they came out and they really they really showed what they're made of. So just a great game. Texas has some work to do. I think everybody at this point who's watched these games sees an Ohio State team that's playing with a lot of confidence, playing at an extremely high level on both sides of the ball, a very explosive offense. And most people probably not giving Texas a chance next Friday, the 10th of January there in Arlington, Texas, but they'll play the game and we'll see how it goes.
Almost has that Texas-Michigan flavor of last year, does it not?
Texas-Michigan flavor of last year?
No, excuse me. My point is the matchup. I'm trying to equate Texas. Actually, I messed that one up. Now I'm getting mixed up here. I was going back to the championship. Washington and Texas. Was that was the championship last year?
That was the semifinal, right?
Semifinal.
Washington beat Texas in that game, and then Michigan beat Washington, fairly handily in the final. Certainly, one thing I'll say about last year, Texas is the only team that last year was in the 14 playoff, and this year's in the 12-team playoff. So they have that experience to build upon. And Will Howard, what's unique about this game, or what people should look for? Will Howard has been flawless in these two playoff victories. I mean, you look at Ohio State versus Tennessee and Oregon, two pretty good football teams. Tennessee's a strong team. Oregon was ranked number 1 in the nation at 13-0. Ohio State outscores those two teams collectively 83-38. They led by 20 points over both of those teams less than 20 minutes into the game. So they came out of the gate and got all over them. They averaged 8 yards of play, 8 yards in offensive play against Tennessee and Oregon. They only allowed 3.8 yards per play against those teams. So they're playing at a very high level. The one way to beat Ohio State, even at the level they're playing, is you got to put pressure on their quarterback. Will Howard has been prone to turnovers throughout his 5-year collegiate career. He's thrown 34 career interceptions, has a high interception rate of 3%. Which is not at the level of a championship quarterback, not even at the average level for a college quarterback. So if you're Texas, I'd be blitzing right now. They're going to bring a lot of pressure. They're going to put him under heavy duress, and they're probably going to give up. They are going to give up some big plays because Ohio State's a great offense, and they're going to get caught in some numbers deficits. But on the other hand, they're gonna have to get up in his grill. They're gonna have to come early, come often, and just keep coming. I think to have a chance to disrupt that Ohio State offense, perhaps create some turnovers, and perhaps stun the college football world there in Arlington.
Line opened at 4.5, immediately shot up to 6.5. I think it settled at 6. The one alarming thing that I saw yesterday was the Texas running game was nowhere to be found. Now, again, you jumped out to that 14-3 lead so quick. I think Sock was kind of caught in what do we do now almost. He was like in no man's land, don't want to turn the ball over. We know how good our defense is. Let's keep Scatterboo in control here, make the quarterback beat us. What happened to the running game, Paul, yesterday?
Texas's running game has been, it sputtered at times. It certainly came up big against Clemson the game before, but certain teams have been able to, thwart that running game. And yesterday, they have 30 carries for just 53 yards. Their top back, their 1,000-yard back, Trey Wisner, over 18 carries for 45 yards. So they need to get that running game going, but they're going to have to, to be successful these last two games. They're going to have to obviously run the football, but they're going to have to win with the passing game. Trey Wisner's a great running back, but he's not that physical guy that can tote it 25 times a game and just get those big yards after contact against big time defenses. One guy they have that got put in the doghouse pretty early, but he's back in the rotation is true freshman Jarek Gibson. He's a big physical guy. You might see him get a few carries because he's a guy who can take contact and keep going forward. But Texas's running game against championship teams has been an issue. So that's, like all these teams, we've said, pretty much throughout the year that there's no great football team this year. There's no team that doesn't have any blemishes, any warts. There's a lot of really good teams. And maybe as we come to the end, maybe Ohio State has evolved into that great team. But Texas is like, some of the others that are still playing or have been eliminated in that, they do have some flaws. They're not just a totally complete team in every phase of the game against every type of opponent. But that running game needs to get going. Texas coming into the year was reputed to perhaps have the best offensive line in all of football. And, yesterday we didn't see that. And we also saw the offensive line probably in the last few minutes of the game in the overtime. They committed about 3 or 4 illegal procedure penalties. So that the timing was off. They'll work on that, but it'll be interesting to see how well they can run the ball against the Buckeyes next Friday.
Well, Penn State took care of business against Boise State. They'll be waiting this afternoon's winner. Penn State, another business as usual performance. Ashton Genty, couple of turnovers. You get behind that 8 ball. We talked backstage as the dogs are barking apologies there. You get behind 14-0, 14-3. You're playing catch up. You almost got to play flawless. As Oregon obviously couldn't get from behind there yesterday against Ohio State. Thoughts on what you saw from Penn State against Boise State?
Yeah, I mean, you just saw a Big Ten team that's a physical team that can run the ball playing, a really good Mountain West team. People have talked about Boise State. They were the deserving group of 5 entry in the 12-team field, but there's still a large gulf between a program like Penn State and a team like Boise State. Certainly the running back, Ashton Genty, can play for anybody, anytime in college football. One of the greats of recent memory, just a superb talent with great balance. But, Boise State just, these teams recruit none of the same players, and it probably showed itself more in both interior lines. But, I think it was pretty much what you would expect, pretty much a typical ho-hum victory without much suspense. And, now obviously in their next game where they'll be facing the winner of today's Georgia Notre Dame game, they're going to have to step it up a little bit. The opponent will be a little more their size, so to speak.
With your power rankings, I assume obviously Penn State will be underdogs to both Georgia and or Notre Dame. Obviously, if I was at the top of my head here, I would probably put Notre Dame about a 2.5 point favorite over Penn State, and then Georgia probably would be in that 3.5, 4. How close am I to your numbers?
Yeah, I think as of right now, I've seen some people, there might even be some look-ahead lines at some of the books out there. Georgia's going to be, or rather, Notre Dame would be a favorite over Penn State. I'm not sure what you said, but I'm pretty sure Notre Dame would be a small favorite over Penn State, somewhere between 1 to 2.5. And then if it was Georgia and Penn State, closer to pick. Georgia might be a small favorite, probably around pick. So both of the games, the potential matchups there are going to be very tightly lined, and I think almost certainly will be below a field goal. The points could come into play, but I think it's going to essentially be an exercise of trying to pick the team that's going to win the game, and maybe if you can do that, you'll get the money.
I know one of your recommendations is this Georgia Notre Dame game. I do want to talk a little about that. Obviously, due to the tragedy on New Year's Eve at 3 a.m., they push it back a day. A lot of Notre Dame fans came in, stayed for New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, was going to go to the game and fly out. So I don't know what the stadium itself will look like for fans, how many had to leave and come back for work and stuff. I talk about this every day. I trust and respect opening numbers. And of course, the one guy I respect the most is the Circa and Jeffrey Benson. He opened up Notre Dame -1.5 when the line first came out versus Georgia. And immediately all the Georgia money came flocking in. Georgia went to 1.5. It might have tipped to 2. Then, of course, it starts going back. Well, now I'm staring at a Notre Dame -1 across the board. The perfect scenario, the perfect two-way action here. Thoughts initially on the two-way action? And boy, this is going to be one hell of a game.
Yeah, well, these are both big brands. Certainly Notre Dame's brand speaks for itself. One of the more, prominent blue bloods in the history of college football. And Georgia, the most recent dominant program in college football under Kirby Smart. So, I think it kind of stands to reason that in an evenly matched game where both teams are not real prolific offensively, although they're very good offensively, and both play great defense, I think it, stands to reason that people would be, that Notre Dame would have their backers and that Georgia would have their backers as well. So, I'm not surprised by the two-way action. I'm sure it's going to be a heavily bet game. When you look at this game, it comes down to the $64,000 question. And what it comes down to is how will Georgia's one-time backup quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, now their starter, how will he perform in the starting role against Notre Dame? This is a highly touted recruit. He's been in the Georgia program for 3 years, but he really hadn't seen any meaningful action whatsoever until in their last game when Carson Beck went down with the injury against Texas on the final play of the first half of the SEC championship game. Carson Beck out for the year, has since declared for the NFL draft. I don't even know if he'll be at the game. He certainly couldn't play even if he was there because of his health. But Gunnar Stockton, it's his team now, and he hadn't played a whole lot of football. He is a dual threat guy. He did acquit himself, I thought, pretty well against Texas. He was 12 of 16 for 71 yards, a lot of short throws, a lot of easy throws. He did throw one interception. He is kind of a bulldog. He's a tough guy. Country guy. It'll be interesting to see what he does against that Notre Dame defense, a defense which is coordinated by longtime defensive coordinator and football coach Al Golden. This is a veteran defensive coordinator. He's going to show a lot of different looks to Stockton. People are going to be moving in and out, moving sideways, and Stockton's going to have to figure out, is he coming? Is he going to back into coverage? Do I get out of this formation? Do I change the play? Do I call timeout because we're about to run out of time? It's going to be a different, he's not used to the speed of that type of game. And not only the speed of the defense, because Notre Dame's one of the very top defenses in the country. But what it comes down to, from my standpoint is, Carson Beck at the end of last year, man, he was playing top level football. He was playing, as nearly as good as any quarterback in the country. But this year, it almost seemed like he regressed. I think he had 3 games where he threw 3 interceptions. So I don't know that the drop off is going to be that significant. And when you look at this type of big game scenario, as much as I respect the Notre Dame program and Marcus Freeman, Georgia's been playing these football games the last 6 or 8 years, or however long it's been since, Kirby Smart established the Bulldogs as one of the year in, year out contenders. So they're used to these games. They play them in their conference. They play SEC championship games. They play big-time games year in and year out. So I think they're a little more accustomed collectively to this type of stage. And we've seen what Georgia can be at their best in their 2 victories over Texas. I think it's going to be just an old-fashioned rock fight, low-scoring game. I think Georgia is going to nip Notre Dame and win that football game and advance to the semifinals against Penn State.
Before we get your recommendations, we got a few more minutes. Obviously, I know you got busy times ahead of you. Kickoff in about 4 hours or so. The bowl games now, the meaningless bowl games, the as some people in our lanes like to call them, entertainment only games, the transfer portal, NIL, coaches leaving. I got a lot of people reaching out to me, Alabama fans, okay? Once they lost their 3rd game, once they weren't in the final 12, the season was over. Well, next thing you know, they're 18-point favorites against Michigan, and in a wet track for the first half, Jalen Milroe's worst game probably of the year, if not his career, and they lose outright. I mean, thoughts of Alabama, and I know some of the people, you can't just replace Saban, but Alabama got the best guy there to replace Saban with DeBoer. Tough first year. Thoughts on where we stand in all these bowl games, and shocker with Alabama losing outright.
Yeah, bowl games are like a different season. I mean, it's just an experiment of one, trying to figure out how these teams are going to come to the field with what level of buy-in, what level of, as I like to say, collective team psyche, who's going to show up. I mean, Alabama grew to such a large favorite, primarily because they were the better team, but also because a lot of Michigan players opted out to prepare for the draft. I mean, they had a lot of players out. Their losses were heavier than Alabama's, and it looked like, it'd probably be a victory for Alabama. But I'm always a little bit, I didn't have any action either way, but I'm always a little bit tentative to lay big numbers in bowl games, even when the team, the underdog, receiving all those points, has a lot of opt-outs or players in the transfer portal, because you never know what the response is going to be. In bowl games, you have so much what we call variance in results. The bowl game results can fluctuate much more greatly than a regular season game, with history as our guide. So, that was a surprising outcome, but it's a little more of a guessing game. It's always a little bit of a guessing game. You're trying to use your best judgment. You're trying to use statistics perhaps as a measuring device. But in the bowl games, I like to say, whereas during the season, it's more of a fundamental handicap where you are using statistics. You're looking at a team's rushing offense versus the opponent's rushing defense. How many sacks do they allow? Do they get a lot of sacks? Those types of fundamental matchups. You do a lot of that in the regular season, but in the bowl season, it's more of an informational handicap. And that information, again, is who's in and who's out, who's playing, who's not. And it's difficult to know. And I hope at some point, especially for the sake of those like you and I who like to occasionally wager 11 to get back 10, I hope they get some type of transparent injury report, because this is a joke what they're doing right now. If there's not any punitive component, if you don't get in trouble, if they don't take a little money out of your check, if you fudge a little bit, then there's really no reason to be forthright, to be honest about it. And we continue to see coaches, messing around with injury reports and not being, they're going to use any advantage that they can get. And they certainly want the other team to be uncertain about who they're preparing for, who might play and who might not. But if you're going to have injury reports, don't just have injury reports, have legitimate injury reports. So hopefully we'll move to that at some point in the near future.
Before we get to your recommendations for this week, there is another game tonight at 7:30, Duke, Mississippi. Mississippi opened up -14 with a 53.5, now down to 51 with a 17.5 against at the Circa. Good morning to Mr. Benson and Mr. Stevens there. There we were just talking Alabama, 18 points favorites against Michigan, and here comes Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss laying the 17.5. Again, we're to expect that Ole Miss team that was one game away from the final 12. Now, Vegas is trying to tell me you're going to get that hungry team, but can we trust them, Paul?
Again, that's just such a large number. You're going north of 2 touchdowns, and Duke, certainly a lot of this movement on this game is the fact that Duke's starting quarterback, Malik Murphy, transferred out of Durham. He won't be playing in this game. They're down to their third string quarterback, Henry Balin IV. So they're going to be playing a relatively or almost totally inexperienced. He has played a little bit, but almost a totally inexperienced quarterback. And it comes down to, again, what are Ole Miss's players going to bring to the table in terms of excitement, in terms of focus, mental and physical effort, and so forth and so on. I would think, Lane Kiffin has been very vocal about his team and the SEC, in his opinion, being shorted by the committee, thinks he should have been in the tournament. He's making all these sidebar tweets and this, that, and the other. You would think that from his perspective, if he had his way, they would pour it on today. So I could see that scenario, but 17-point favorite, that 17 and a half, 18, whatever, a little bit high. This will be a game. If I was going to bet it, I would only bet Ole Miss, but only for a cheese pizza. I wouldn't even put any pieces of sausage on it. I wouldn't even go that far. Save $1 and just maybe 2 kinds of cheese. But it's a tough handicap because it's a lot of points.
All right, we're going to go to a 2-second commercial, and when we come back, we're going to grab your recommendations. Stay tuned. The stage is yours, Paul.
Okay, well, I have 2 recommendations today, one of which I've already gone over, that being today's game between Georgia and Notre Dame. I'm recommending today Georgia +1 over the Fighting Irish in that quarterfinal matchup. And then the other game is going to be a bowl game on this Saturday in the Bahamas between Liberty of Conference USA and Buffalo of the Mid-American Conference. And this is basically a play against Liberty. Liberty opened as a 2.5-point favorite over Buffalo back on December 9th when these bowl games, bowl numbers were pretty much available market wide. But Buffalo has since become the favorite. They had been trending around 2 and 2.5 the last few days, but now I'm seeing pretty much Buffalo -3 market wide. So we've seen a 5.5-point line swing in this game. And that line that was originally set, again, Liberty -2.5, that was before their standout quarterback, Caden Salter, got in the transfer portal. He's now going to Colorado, where he will likely play for Coach Prime if Coach Prime stays there in Boulder. Salter enters the portal. He's gone to Colorado. 3 starting linemen in the portal who won't play. Their top running back, Quentin Cooley, he's opted out to prepare for the NFL draft. Cooley was a big part of their offense, 1,254 rushing yards. Got a few other players that won't play. So this Buffalo team, not the same team that ended the year. And the team that ended the year there for Liberty in Lynchburg, the last half of the year, they didn't play very well. I mean, this is a team that lost to Kennesaw State. It's more than a 20-point favorite, I believe. I don't think Kennesaw State had won a game before that, maybe one game. Lost to Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, and Sam Houston State in the second half of their schedule and needed overtime to win at UMass. So they really sputtered and struggled down the stretch. And even more importantly than that, in my opinion, Liberty entered the 2024 season with one goal, and that was to go undefeated 13-0 and make the 12-team playoff. Last year, they made a New Year's Six Bowl, didn't play well. They were kind of outclassed against Oregon, lost that game 45-6, but brought back Salter, brought back that running back Cooley, a lot of other key pieces, very easy schedule. Their designs were going 13-0, and let's give the committee something to think about. Maybe we'll get in that inaugural 12-team tournament, and obviously that didn't come to fruition. They, fell well short of that goal. Now they're without some players, and I think it's natural to expect something less than a supreme effort from Liberty against Buffalo, and that's probably putting it mildly. Buffalo's not a great football team by any stretch of the imagination, but they just have the motivation edge here. They also played Liberty last year in a non-conference game at home in September there in Buffalo, lost that game 55-27. as a 3.5-point home underdog. So that might give Buffalo even a little more incentive there. So normally 5.5-point lines swing. I don't want to be on the wrong side of that, but it's across 0. It's across pick. So it's not nearly as significant as your typical 5.5-point line swing. So I think Buffalo is going to win this game by more than a field goal. I just don't think Liberty's very heavily invested in the outcome of the Bahamas Bowl. Probably enjoying the Bahamas right now is that Liberty squad. So give me Buffalo -3 over the Liberty Flames this Saturday, January 4th.
And you had talked prior, your thoughts, obviously, on the Georgia-Notre Dame game?
Yeah, just the fact that Georgia has been here. This is kind of, we talked about Gunnar Watson, the quarterback who his third year in the program, now the clear-cut starter with Carson Beck going to the NFL and injured on top of that. So how will Stockton play? I think he's going to play just well enough. But I think this environment, again, the big game setting, Notre Dame in recent history, every team's a different team, but it's still fair to point out that Notre Dame has not fared all that well in these games the last, quarter of a century, probably, when they've been up against big name opponents in big time games. In Georgia, on the other hand, this is almost, they include games like this on their schedule. I mean, they play them every year. Not a great Georgia team, not like teams, 2 or 3 years ago, but still a very good Georgia team. And we've seen what they can bring to the table again in those 2 victories over Texas. I think they've got a little bit higher ceiling than Notre Dame, but it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be, again, a rock fight. It's going to be a physical football game. Turnovers will be critical, but I think Georgia gets out with the victory. So I like the Dogs +1 over the Irish.
I will say, as we were speaking at the Superbook, Mr. Murray has now got Notre Dame 1.5. So they're the only one across the strip that is now tiptoed Notre Dame -1.5. So if you're in Vegas, tiptoe to the Superbook. So say hello to Mr. Murray and grab some Georgia Bulldogs now +1.5 there. 4:10 kickoff there. And then we'll be followed by Duke, Mississippi in Jacksonville for the Gator Bowl. Paul, as we always wrap this show up, we always throw the nice little 7.5-yard button hook to you so you can tell everyone not just where to find your work on Twitter, of course, at Paul Stone Sports, but your website as well.
Yeah, Twitter, as you said, at Paul Stone Sports is my handle. I like to put out information that hopefully is unique and hopefully is useful. Oftentimes statistical against the spread type information, some opinion in there. And also my website, as you mentioned, paulstonesports.org. If you want to take your interest into what I do a little bit deeper, you can go there and take a look at some of my historical results, some of the packages that I offer. And again, that website, paulstonesports.org.
Paul, always a pleasure. What a way to start the new year than talking some football with you. I could talk for hours. We'll save that for next Thursday and the semifinals. How's that?
Sounds good. I hope everybody has a great end of the week and weekend of viewing college football, and we'll talk to you next week, Jeff.
All right, Paul, you take care.
Same to you.
Paul Stone, go follow him at Paul Stone Sports on X and go check out his website at paulstonesports.org. I know a lot of people that get his information, and they are very happy people. Do yourself some justice here. If you're serious about this, head on over to paulstonesports.org. You will not, I repeat, be not excited. Trust me on that one. Quick commercial break. When we come back, we will wrap it up. Stay tuned.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history and stats. You could also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Yourself a merry little Christmas night, and have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Paul Stone, go follow him on X at Paul Stone Sports. And of course, check out his website at paulstonesports.org. Busy day here at the ECSI Network. 2 o'clock, Andrew McGinnis at McGinnis Picks at Wager Talk. Well, big slate in the NHL. We'll talk some NHL tonight, and 5 games at the World Juniors. I know Andrew's got a lot of stuff to talk about the World Juniors there. And then at 3:30, we're going to move Ron Marmalevsky up so we can enjoy the Notre Dame and Georgia game. So Ron Marmalevsky will be here at Ron A Sports at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, talking college football and NFL. Want to give a big shout out, of course, to Amber Hawley, everyone watching and listening, of course, Emil, Danny, Mr. Lucky, Dr. Lance. The list is endless, guys. It's 2025. It's going to be an epic year, I promise you. Enjoy yourself. Stay in your lane. So much action going on. Just because it's on TV, we don't have to play it. Trust me on that. So we will be back here at 2 o'clock. Enjoy lunch, and we'll see you in a couple hours. Thank you again.